Hello everyone, I am the lurching bag of electricity and meat known as Grin Spickett. Welcome to What Are Target Coordinates? This is the first episode of a new series. It's RV super fun. So let's get started. What are target coordinates? There's a historical perspective and then there is the practical use. Target coordinates in remote viewing are used as a way to keep remote viewers blind from what they're actually working on, which is a huge part of why remote viewing has been able to demonstrate statistical significance in lab examination and evaluation through decades of the government-funded programs. By staying blind to the target, remote viewers have less of their own imagination and thoughts to get in the way and might find it easier to sort between imagination and quote unquote true impressions about the target. So let's start with a little bit of the history. So in the beginning of remote viewing research, as we know it today, you had the viewer and you had a person that was called the beacon. And the viewer would try to imagine what was happening and what was surrounding the person, the beacon, when they were at a specific location at a specific time. And maybe they would be able to then bring back information about the nearby buildings and surroundings, and they could find correspondences between these two things. But a lot of the funding was going to be coming from federal government, from intelligence agencies, and it's not really helpful to have a new way of gathering intelligence that requires you to have a person already at the place that you're trying to secretly penetrate. So they needed a way to target the remote viewer on the location without having a person already on site. So Ingo Swan, who we consider the father of remote viewing for many reasons, was really worried about this, and he's having a drink. And he's having a drink by the pool, and lo and behold, he hears in his mind, as the story goes, try coordinates. Try coordinates. And he says, oh, okay, I'll try coordinates. So he drops the drink. He loses his legs. No, he gets his legs back. And he goes to his fellow researchers at SRI, and he tells them, why don't we try coordinates? And they're like, what? Why would that work? That doesn't make any sense. Why would that work at all? And he said, I don't know, let's just try coordinates. So they're like, fine, we'll try coordinates. So the kinds of coordinates they tried, they thought like, well, an intelligence agency might. You know, we had spies in the skies. We had satellites that were taking pictures of locations using longitude and latitude, okay? And longitude and latitude gave you a set of coordinates. They're going to be much longer than that, but you have coordinates that basically set any place on Earth if you have longitude and latitude. So they started by having the remote viewers concentrate on these longitude and latitude coordinates, and lo and behold, they were able to use those longitude and latitude coordinates to concentrate and obtain information about whatever was at that spot on Earth. But as time went on and the remote viewers became more and more familiar with those longitude and latitude coordinates, the intelligence agency handlers and the researchers were concerned that the remote viewer was becoming too familiar with the coordinates for different regions on Earth. I mean, if they kept targeting places in Siberia over and over and over, then maybe they will recognize the coordinates for Siberia ahead of time, and maybe that will give them too much information up front that's going to color their session and give them wrong results, and they're going to be guessing about what's happening there. Oh, it's frozen, it's barren, there's Russians there, oh my goodness, okay? So that's not what they want. They want unbiased information, accurate information as much as possible. So that led to the invention of encoded coordinates. And encoded coordinates, they'd take a calculator, it was probably the size of a room back then, I don't know. and they'd punch them in, and they'd get out the new coordinates, and those were mathematically transformed, like a code. And they said, well, let's see if this works. And so they encoded the coordinates and found out, yeah, you know what, that worked just about as well. The viewer didn't have to know that it was Siberia, and yet they still got information about Siberia, apparently. So later on, as the story goes, at the military program, one day, the person who was tasking the viewers to their targets for that day couldn't get the darn calculator to work. So you know what? He just made up some numbers. And the session seemed to go as good as any other session. It didn't really matter that the geographic coordinates, the longitude and latitude, were not transformed by the calculator. Just making the random number seemed to work just as well. And so they continued to use made-up numbers, or pseudo-random numbers, as you might call them, for their sessions from then on. Why does this work? Well, that's a different question. I can't exactly tell you why they work, but we can theorize a little bit, and we can talk about it maybe another day. So there's your history of target coordinates. My handwriting's getting worse and worse. You all have a wonderful day.